All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Open Science Theory and Practice. Before we begin, a quick reminder that this session is being recorded and will be shared through our dissemination channels. We are very pleased to have Vasiliki Silvia Koukounidou with us today. Silvia is a university officer at the University of Cyprus Library and serves as the coordinator of the Digitisation and Archives Office. She's actively involved in European and national initiatives on open science, including her role as the Cyprus National Open Access Desk representative for OpenAIRE and as National Ambassador for the Digital Education Hackathon. Her work focuses on open science, digitization, and archival management, and she has been instrumental in promoting open access policies and practices both in Cyprus and across Europe. Silvia, thank you for accepting our invitation. We are very happy to have you with us and look forward to your presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to first thank you, Sotirula, and the rest of the team for this invitation. So yes, with no delay, I would like to start my presentation. Let me check if this is working properly. So in today's presentation, I would like to take you on a brief journey through the world of open science, if I may call it like that. It will be an effort to offer as broad and clear an overview of the topic as possible. So we will begin by looking at what open science means in practice and why it has become such an important part of the modern research environment. From there, we will move to the key requirements relating to publications and research data, exploring what is expected from you as researchers in terms of openness, accessibility, and at the end, responsible management of your research outputs. Finally, I will share a few practical tools that can be useful for you to make this transition easier, showing how we can move from the theory of open science to its actual implementation in everyday research practice. And at the end, I have some FAQs that you may find useful. And of course, I will be glad to take any questions you may have. Before I start, I would like to introduce you to the world of OpenAIRE, the family of OpenAIRE, which I represent as the Cyprus National Open Access Desk since 2009. It's a non-profit organization established in 2018. Just to make clear, in 2009, actually OpenAIRE started as a project. So there was a series of projects, and in 2018 became a legal entity. So we are now a non-profit organization with 52 members in 36 countries. It is a scholarly communication infrastructure that brings together human capital and advanced ICT services. There is a great network of experts from major national organizations that have the role of National Open Access Desk, as I have the one of Cyprus, and we are in operation since 2009. The main mission is to shift scholarly communication paradigm towards transparency and accessibility, to promote, as we do today, and implement open science practices, enabling free access to research outputs, including publications, data, software, and methodologies, to support compliance with open access policies, and to foster sharing and collaboration among researchers. So moving forward to our topic, I would like to start with a definition. The definition of the European Commission, which says that open science is an approach based on open cooperative work and systematic sharing of knowledge and tools, as early and widely as possible in the research process. It involves an evolution in the way scientific knowledge is produced, funded, communicated, and assessed. It represents a significant shift paradigm in research activities and dissemination of results. The concept of open science, on one hand, refers to open access to different research outputs, including publications, data, code, software, etc., the use of digital platforms based on open source code, and the opening up of the entire scientific process as much and as soon as possible. But it also includes practices such as open peer review, open educational resources, participatory science, citizen science, and the development of new ways of research assessment. I will explain the terms later, so let's move on. With the taxonomy of open science, which actually encompasses a broad range of concepts, principles, and practices, often accompanied by terminology that can appear complex at first sight. So in today's session, of course, we will not be able to cover everything, but we will focus on some of its core dimensions. In particular, we will examine the policy landscape that shapes open science implementation. We will focus in Horizon Europe and to what is happening to the national landscape. We will discuss open access requirements and explore some of the main open access pathways. We will also provide a brief introduction to open data, actually an overview of open data, highlighting its importance for transparency, reusability, and research integrity, and conclude with an overview of selected open science tools that can support you as researchers in putting these principles into practice. I cannot see the chat as I'm sharing my screen, so if there is anything that I need to know, please let me know.
Yeah, one of the participants had an issue, but I think it's resolved now. They were not able to see the slides, but everything's okay.
Okay. So moving on to policies, we can see that open science is not something new. It actually started back around 2008 during the FP7 framework program, which was introduced as an open access pilot, mainly for publications, marking an important step in the European research landscape. So during this period, institutional repositories and the use of preprints also began to be terms that became familiar. In 2013, under Horizon 2020, beneficiaries were required to make their publications openly accessible. So we have a mandate there, while open access to research data was introduced as a pilot initiative. By 2017, open access to research data had become a mandatory practice, with certain exceptions, of course. The year 2018 marked another major milestone with the launch of the European Open Science Cloud, or EOSC. This is the term that we can usually find it, even though the initiative had already been proposed in 2016. What is EOSC? Just a few words. It reflects the European Commission's vision of creating a virtual, trusted and open environment in Europe for the storage, sharing, and reuse of research data across borders and scientific disciplines. The vision is to be a pool of interconnected information that will enable researchers not only to make better use of their own data, but also to benefit from the data of others. In this way, EOSC is expected to generate new insights, foster novel discoveries, and support innovative solutions. So moving on, in 2021, Horizon Europe established open science as a core modus operandi. integrating it directly into the valuation of proposals under the excellence criterion. Then in 2022, there was the launch of COARA, the Coalition of Advancing Research Assessment, with the aim to support the reform of research assessment. In my opinion, this is a big issue that it should be addressed even earlier, but 2022 is still okay. COARA is actually working in promoting a more responsible, qualitative and inclusive approaches to evaluating research and researchers. It currently brings together over 800 signatory organizations worldwide, including research organizations, funders, assessment authorities, professional societies, and their association. So, coming back to our landscape in our island, please allow me to briefly guide you through the key milestones that have shaped Cyprus's path toward open science. So, although open access practices and the signing of major declarations began appearing in our academic institutions as early as 2008, it was only in 2016 that Cyprus took a decisive step forward by drafting its first open access national policy. In 2022, our national landscape had matured, it's changed, if I may say, but in a more official word, let's use the word matured significantly. And we were ready not only to revise that initial policy, but to broaden it, embracing a much more inclusive vision of open science and integrating many additional elements that reflect today's evolving research ecosystem. What makes these policies meaningful is the way that they were created, since both were shaped through the active involvement of our local community, including policymakers, funders, universities, and research institutions that they were working together in dedicated national committees. Both were formally approved by the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Cyprus, underscoring the country's commitment at the highest level. In the same year, we also introduced a national action plan. It was a supportive document that was shared across all stakeholder groups that outlined a clear set of actions that we needed to build the conditions that will allow and still allow Cyprus to fully meet the objectives of the open science policy. It is in many ways our roadmap that we're working on for the transition ahead. It's a transition that, of course, requires coordination, readiness, and a shared belief in the value of openness. In this slide, some of the key milestones that have been achieved through the years at the national level are provided. I will not go through them, but what I wanted to highlight is the fact that the commitment, the synergies and collaborations can benefit not only an institution, but also the whole Cypriot, in our case, research community. Additionally, allow me to highlight the role of libraries, as I'm coming from this area, as they can and they are playing a crucial role as knowledge hubs, using the example of the University of Cyprus Library, that they can provide continuous support not only to their own university researchers, but to all the Cypriot researchers and stakeholders of the country, either for their obligations to their grants or for infrastructure creation and compatibility issues, and of course to policymakers and funders for several issues and open science aspects. So moving from policies to practice, let's see what EU-funded researchers need to have in mind in terms of their obligations for open access to publication. So the mandate under Horizon Europe is to deposit the peer-reviewed manuscript in the forms of AAM or VOR. I will show in my next slide what these terms mean, in a trusted repository by self-archiving with no embargo periods, unless you are under Horizon 2020 calls, where there was an embargo period and the beneficiaries were able to ensure open access to their publications within a maximum of 6 months or 12 months for publications in the social sciences and humanities. Authors should retain the rights, at least by having the author-accepted manuscript or the version of record under a CC BY license, a Creative Commons by 4 license. Information about the research output or outputs or tools or instruments that were needed to validate the conclusions of the publication should be also available. Don't forget to add the acronym of your project in your publication. Just some points. Important points that researchers should have in mind is that publication fees, the article processing charges, or APCs, if we can usually meet them as a term, are eligible if the venue is full open access, also known as gold open access route. There are no restrictions on where to publish, but the journal, but APCs for hybrid journals are not covered. Creative Commons licenses must be, as I said, in the license 4, but there are some cases, for example, for long text formats, for monographs, for example, that you can use also other Creative Commons licenses. A chapter in an edited book is not an eligible cost. So as promised, let's see what AAM and VOR means. So as a researcher, you create your publication, the draft version, and then you submit it to your publisher. The submission version is called the preprint version. It goes through the peer reviewing process, then it comes back with some revision, and when this process is done, you have the author-accepted manuscript. Or you can find it named as postprint. So this version, you have to be able to use it. It is with no, let's say, copy or editing from the publisher format. So make sure that you can keep your rights on using at least this form of your work. Then, when the publisher proceeds with any editing and formatting, etc., then we will have the final version of record. And this is the one that it's going to be your final publication. Now, coming back with the term self-archiving, it is the process of depositing a version of your work on a trusted repository. Irrespectively of where you publish, either this will be in a full open access journal or a hybrid journal or anywhere else you want to publish it, you still need to deposit the AAM or the VOR version on a repository, except if you publish in Open Research Europe platform. I will say a few things about this later in my slides. The AAM or the version of record might be available under different licenses. For example, you may sign a copyright transfer agreement, but you can still retain your rights. In any case, make sure that you still have your copyrights and that you can use your own work. Make sure also that you, let's say, don't use, or you can use, of course, but it is not acceptable, it is not considered as a trusted repository, having your work in any social network sites, like academia, ResearchGate, or LinkedIn, I don't know, or your website, or your profile page. It is not considered as a trusted repository. Okay. What we mean by the term trusted repository, it means that it's a certified, it can be discipline on a specific subject, or generic repositories like Zenodo, or institutional repositories. For example, in Cyprus, or in the University of Cyprus, we have the repository Gnosis, where the affiliated researchers can use to self-archive their publications there, or you can check on your own institutions to find institutional repositories or your subject area repositories. In any case, make sure that this is a trusted repository that also supports FAIR principles. You can use persistent identifiers. It is searchable, and you can find a trusted repository and search for a trusted repository also in registries. So make sure that you are using one trusted repository. Now, regarding Creative Commons, it's 6 licenses that you can, as the author, as the owner of the copyright, decide which one fits. It's more available for your work and your needs. You can see here a table. You can check it also later. Which one is the least free license and the most free license? This is on your own decision. You will decide how your work will be used by any other person. But in the case of that, your publication is a funded publication by the European Commission, as we saw in the previous slide, you will have to take the CC BY 4 license. An important tool that will help you to check your journal's eligibility. As we said, you can publish wherever you want. But if you want to make sure that everything is done properly, you can always use this tool called the Journal Checker tool. You can find the link on this slide, where you can write your journal name, the title, or the ISSN, the International Standard Serial Number, your funder, and your institution, and see whether any transformative agreements or any agreements are between your institution, or if this journal is eligible under your funder. Now, I mentioned earlier Open Research Europe. Open Research Europe is a platform created by the European Commission. It supports the Diamond Open Access model. This means that there are no costs to authors or to the readers. The costs are met directly by the European Commission. Of course, this is an optional service. You can use it during or after the end of your project. It supports open peer review. I will show you what this means in my next slide. But it is automatically compliant with the open access requirements of the European Commission, and then you don't need to self-archive it anywhere, as it will be archived in Zenodo once passed from the peer review process. I should say that by now, I think since last week, that was the last time I visited it, it has around more than 1,300 registrations in it. It is a multidisciplinary platform which you can check and use in case you feel that is suitable for you. So what open peer review means? It means that everything is visible. You will add your publication there, and then you will know your reviewers, and your reviewers will approve or show if it is approved with the reservation or not approved in open view, if I may say. And this will be shown something like this. You will be able to see your reviewer, what he or she stated for your paper, and accordingly you will be able to respond, and everything will be visible. Now, moving on to the requirements for research data. The mandate through Horizon Europe was to provide your data aligned with FAIR principles. And data management plan is required by month 6, and it should be, or it could be updated during the project or at the end of your project. The metadata, in any case, they should be openly available as soon as possible after the production or their generation, or after processing and any quality controls. You should deposit the data in a trusted repository and make them open as soon as possible, following the principle as open as possible, as closed as necessary. I am sure you already know that, but just to follow the the correct, let's say, route of the presentation, I would like to say what FAIR principles mean. So F stands for findable, which means that your data must be accompanied with rich metadata. They must be searchable and discoverable online, and they must have a persistent identifier, for example, a DOI. They must be accessible with the deposition on a trusted repository, for example. Data can be restricted and still be fair, as we said, following the term as open as possible, as closed as necessary. Interoperable. This means that it should be in a format that it could be easily interoperable, such as a CSV file or an XLS. And of course, reusable, well documented, explaining how these can be reused, and of course, licensed. Regarding the data management plan, as we said, it's a formal living document that specifies how your research data will be handled both during and after a research project. It identifies key actions and strategies to ensure that the data are of high quality, safe, sustainable, and where possible, accessible and reusable. There are no absolute right answers, but be clear, specific, and detailed, and justify decisions. For example, if you decide that you don't want to provide them in open access, justify why. The data management plans is to prove to the funder that the researcher has taken time to reflect on what to do, and that consideration has been given, and the approach seems reasonable. Data can be closed, as we said earlier, but the metadata can be given, can be provided, and they must be fair and under Creative Commons licenses. Make sure again that you have everything in trusted repository. What metadata, just a clarification of what metadata can be. This can be a title, author's name, an org ID of the researcher, language, or maybe, I don't know, an abstract or something that will describe better your data. What can be a valid justification for not opening your data is, for example, that personal data are included there. So data protection or privacy rules of sensitive or personal data exists in your research. If they are commercially valuable, or they have, they have to be under IP protection, and this might cause any conflicts if you have them in open access. And of course, any topics about security or any other, public security, etc. In your data, even if you say and state that you want them to be closed, in the case of a public emergency, beneficiaries must, if requested by the granting authority, immediately deposit them in a repository and provide open access to them. As an exception, if the access will be against the beneficiary's legitimate interest, beneficiaries must grant non-exclusive licenses under fair and reasonable conditions to legal entities that might need the research output to address the public emergency, for example, the COVID period, and commit to rapidly and broadly exploit the resulting products and services at fair and reasonable conditions. These provisions applies up to 4 years after the end of the action. So let's see some of the tools, as I promised. In the case that you don't know Zenodo, Zenodo is a very user-friendly way to share your research outputs in just a few clicks. It's a repository created by the European Commission some years back. And through this process, you will be able to get your DOI the persistent identifier we already mentioned. It will be indexed at real time and be in the infrastructures of OpenAIRE, which is compatible with the European infrastructures, and provides direct links to GitHub to archive snapshots of code and assign DOI. And in there, you may find a lot of institutional communities. I don't know if you noticed in my slide earlier, for example, for Cyprus, during the first policy creation, we created a community named Cyprus, where we can curate and approve outputs that are created and researchers that needs to be compliant, and they don't have any other way, they don't have any other community, and they can add their research output in this community. The process is very easy. You just upload, you visit the link, you upload up to 50 gigabytes of a file, and all file formats are accepted. You need to describe by stating some metadata, and then it's automatically published with a citable DOI. Another great tool that I would suggest for you to use is Argos, which is a great tool for creating and writing a data management plan. As we said, it is a mandatory process by some research funders, so you may find it very useful. It has many plans, but as a researcher, you can use it for free. You can visit the site, and you can also sign in through your org ID. You don't need to make any additional effort for logging in, and you can also find collaborators, or you can invite your collaborators and create your data management plan using templates that are already there. This is some additional information you will find later in my slides, and of course, feel free to use. You can also see versions of your DMPs, and as soon as you finish, this will be automatically, when you select, to be uploaded and published in Zenodo. So all these platforms are interconnected, and it makes your life easier. Another great tool is Amnesia. This is used for anonymization of datasets. So in the case that you have data that do include personal data, but you still want to set them in open access, you can always anonymize them and then proceed with the DMP, stating that this data were personal data, but I was able to anonymize them and follow the GDPR guidelines, and now I am able to provide them through this platform. Another great tool is a service. It's Open Plato, where you can find many useful training material about open science, like this presentation today, but with the great coverage of all the aspects of open science. And as we saw in the taxonomy earlier, this is open science is actually an umbrella term, if I may say, with a lot of aspects. You can use Open Play-Doh to see other training material that you may be interested in terms of copyrights, intellectual property rights, data policies, any other requirements, etc. A great gateway, a great platform is also OpenAIRE Explore. I will urge you to also visit it and search in this tool, in this service. You can discover there a lot of research outputs that can be useful for your research, or even to discover articles or theses or any diverse other scholarly works. You can navigate through funding opportunities, explore data management plans, etc. So it is another useful database, which is based it's based on OpenAIRE Graph. That it is also a database that connects publications, datasets, software projects, funding institutions, and researchers. So, coming to the conclusion of my presentation, this is a table that you can that summarize what I said earlier. You can see which are the recommended practices and which are the mandatory. Again, I would like to remind that this is mainly for Horizon Europe framework program. So you can see here a summary of what I already said. Of course, have in mind that a lot of other policies are around, so you should take into consideration if you are funded by any other organization or institution, to take into consideration their policies. For example, in our university, we do have an institutional policy following the national open science policy, of course, but still there are some points that needs some attention. A few words that about pre-registrations. For example, if you are conducting research that creates a systematic literature review, this is also considered an open science practice. So you can, by providing it with open access terms, it can be stated as an open science practice to your reports. Same comes with preprints and your public engagement actions, doing or being involved in these kind of activities. For example, participating in European researchers' nights or public talks, etc. These are considered practices that should be stated as open science practices. A few words about what citizen science is. It is actually, again, a term that covers the inclusion, the contribution, the inclusion of citizens and the public, the contribution of citizens and the public for science and scientists, and the reciprocity, the dissemination of the scientific information to the public, and listening to the citizens' opinions and needs, and giving and making your research, let's say, a more citizen approachable, if I may use the word. So just a reminder of what aspects are eligible in the budgets. Article processing charges can be covered by the grant if the venue is full open access, also known as the gold open access route. Hybrid venues aren't eligible. You will have to find another way to cover these costs. Any printing fees can't be covered by the grant either. And all that we said earlier, engagement of citizens, civil society, and user citizen science, and all these aspects are and should be mentioned as practices. So I am almost done. I would like to say a few words regarding the frequently asked questions that I usually get in my presentations, just to make sure that everything is covered. The usual question is, what about the copyrights and the user licenses? Open access is not an infringement on copyright. In fact, it's perfectly legal. Owning and keeping your copyrights, it is your right. So make sure that when you decide of where you will publish, just make sure that at least you have the right to use, if not the version of record, the AAM or a previous version. Another usual question, how can I avoid predatory journals? It is a fact that some journals present themselves as open access journals, but turn out to be predatory journals. I am sure that you get a lot of emails, maybe every day, of these journals. There are some tools that can protect you. Here you can find, there is also a list that you can visit and check, and of course some questions that will assist you on exploring if the journal that is in contact with you, it is a predatory journal or not. Again, what are the article processing charges? I think we already covered this a lot, but just to make sure, they are publication fees charged to authors to make publications immediately open access. They can be of different, amounts. So you can check if this can be covered by your project or by your institution, if there are any, for example, agreements between your institutions or not. And you can also find an overview of trusted open access journals in the directory of Open Access Journal, where you can see also their APCs. Here is, let's say, a table where a comparison of academia, ResearchGate, and the open access repositories business models are provided. You can check it later. This is the reason why we said that this cannot be considered as trusted repositories. That's all from my side. Thank you for your attention, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Vasiliki. I have to say, as a manager and researcher working with FAIR, I took many notes. So it was a great presentation. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'll start with one until if we have any from the audience. We got to know the Open Science Journal European platform where you can publish your journals, but I have to say, like, as a scientist, I'm a little bit wired to looking at the impact factor, and I guess many people have that issue. How do you see the scientists' attitude towards that, like moving away from the impact factor?
Yes. Unfortunately, as long as the valuation process of the researchers are following impact factors, we will have a lot of skepticism. The thing is that we need to move forward. We need to, let's say, move to a more qualitative evaluation of the research of researchers. So I can see, I can understand this, skepticism coming from the researchers, but it's on their own hand to change things. So if you choose to follow this will follow you also in your whole research lifetime. I think it should be a good start, starting at least testing these new methods. And of course, it's really encouraging that we see that, for example, following the Quora's development and the fact that there are 800 signatories there, we can see that researchers do want to change, do want to, let's say, proceed to a different way of their evaluation.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that there is a change in attitude. Petros has a question. Petra?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was a very nice overview. Well, my question is, I don't know if there is an answer on that, a bit more philosophical, I would say, but I'm wondering how AI is changing this open science landscape and whether there are any policies or thoughts about updated policies that integrate AI into that, because people may follow the whole open science process and get licenses and everything, but at the end of the day, maybe their work is used by AI models without the necessary recognition in the process. So I'm wondering if there are any thoughts or activities towards integrating AI in open science processes. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Actually, it was a question that it was also mentioned on an event that we had on Monday, that we had the speakers from the European Commission and EOSC Association. So I will use their words. Open science, but actually is, we want to make better research and provide the best quality of research in open access, so that these models, these AI models, brings also best results. So the better the quality we give, the better the quality we will have, and the research will be developed in the best possible quality. So if we give trash, we will get trash. If we give good data, we will get back good data. So the fact that we are providing things in open access, it is acceptable that this is done to be reused. So the only thing is that the attributions must be made. So in the new acts, in the new policies that should be coming out, they should include a clause that attributions have to be made. So we will all have to wait AI is running faster than us. So yeah, we'll see.
Thank you.
Do we have another question? I think I saw another hand. No. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Vasiliki, for this really interesting presentation and for your time. Thank you, everyone, who participated in this webinar as well.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good afternoon,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.